Welcome to Financial Issues, where we join reality with truth, helping you make the most of your money by honoring God with your investments. Now listen in as we give you the practical tools and advice you need to become a biblically responsible investor.
Good morning. Welcome to Financial Issues, everybody. Great to be back with you. It's the start of a new week here. We're delighted to have you. Seth, Udinski, Samuel Case, our Studio A team here headquartered at Financial Issues. Happy to have you all here this morning. Grateful to be back. Is taxation legalized thievery, folks? We'll discuss that a little bit later on in the show. Also, the Federal Reserve Watch is apparently totally certain, at least the brass that watches that, totally certain of a rate cut in a week and a half. We'll see if those Fed watchers are right. Also, your questions and comments. I'm grateful for each of you. I hope you'll say hello, however you're watching, especially on our chat. Folks, before we get to all that, though, I would like to recap our ministry's big announcement that we made on Friday and share some more thoughts about all that. So if you'll bear with me for just a moment, this is a very, very exciting time for us here. So let's get right to it here. So if you missed the show on Friday, you missed really what was just a tremendous farewell for Shana. We had a wonderful time sending her off, and even I think more exciting announcement that we had as well, that God has provided for FISM in his perfect timing, sending us Mark Minnella to be our new full-time host of Financial Issues. We are so excited to be able to welcome Mark onto the team as the host. He'll be joining our analytic team as well. He's got 35 years of investing experience, truly as an expert. Was the founder of the National Association of Christian Financial Consultants and Integrity Investors. He's a national leader in biblically responsible investing. He's worked closely with Art Alley for many years, served on the board at Timothy Plan. He's passionate. He loves the Lord. He loves what we do, and it's just so exciting. He's got decades of experience as a financial advisor, radio host, author. His voice will be familiar to many. He really carries the same message that Dan started for our ministry and that Shana continued. Mark was a contemporary. He is a contemporary of Art Alley, Dan Celia, that first generation of biblically responsible investors that came to the fore back in the 80s and 90s, and we got him. It's so exciting, folks. We're so thrilled. Please keep us in your prayers, Mark Minnella in your prayers as he begins with us, Shana, of course, as she transitions away. And let's be reminded of what the scripture says, for us to not grow weary in doing good, for at the proper time we'll reap a harvest if we do not give up. So exciting, folks. Now, that said, many of you in the chat, at least some I saw, were asking, what does that mean for Seth and Sam? If you've watched the show for the last several months, of course, myself and Sam, we've been hosting a whole lot. So I thought it'd be good just to share.
And you'll notice that Seth is not Mark.
That's exactly right. Yeah, in case anyone's wondering, I am not Mark.
I thought that was going to be the big reaction in the chat today, is saying, wait a minute.
Wait a second. Mark. He's not Mark. You're exactly right, folks. You did very well. D&D, we're asking this in the chat. A couple of you have sent me emails. Seth, what's your role going to be with the ministry moving forward? And so I thought I'd give myself and Sam the opportunity to just share a little bit about that. So Sam, at any point in this, feel free to jump in and share. But let me say this right off the bat, folks. As long as the Lord allows, Sam and I are not going anywhere. Dan handpicked each of us, both of us, to be here at Financial Issues. He hired Sam. Was it 2019, Sam, that Dan brought you on?
Who even knows anymore? Yes, it was 2019.
Exactly right. And then Dan hired me in late 2020, and I started in early 2021. Picked both of us. Both of us have often said that we would run through a burning building to make this ministry succeed, and it is true. So as long as the Lord allows, we're not going anywhere. As you all have seen, the last 3 months in particular, I have been sitting in this chair as the main host of the show, in quotes. As Shana was transitioning out, she was taking time off. So for the bulk of that time, you heard much more of me and Sam than you did of Shana. I want you to know how much I've cherished every second of this, being the temporary main host of Financial Issues. It's been delightful. I think the most delightful thing for me, alongside talking with all of you every day, is knowing that I have absolutely the greatest co-host a man could ever ask for in Sam Case.
It's been such an unexpected responsibility to do this, but it's been so much fun.
It's been such a delight, such a joy to get to do this every day. And as you all know, my time as the consistent day-to-day main host of Financial Issues is coming to a close because thankfully we're thrilled. Mark is starting. He's going to start in about a month. He's got some training time that he's going to be, working on here, and we're going to be bringing him onto the show more and more. You'll be hearing from him multiple times a week on the show as we ramp up towards his start date. As you all know, listen, I'm going to give you some real talk here, folks. I am not a financial expert. I can hold my own by God's grace. I've learned a whole lot, but I'm not the financial expert that Dan was, or that Mark is, or that Shana is, or that Jason is. I'm simply not. My financial knowledge has been entirely on the job training. So everything I've learned about finances, everything significant, I've learned from FISM. I've learned from under Dan or Shana, and now talking to Mark as well. With that in mind, I'd just like to thank each and every one of you for allowing me the chance to grow in this job behind this microphone and encouraging me. It just means the world so much. And Sam, I'm sure you feel the same way as well. Many of you, as I am, are going to be thrilled to not have to listen to me for the bulk of the time anymore once Mark starts. It means that we have Mark. So all that to say, let me share my new role going forward. I truly will be the co-host of Financial Issues. That has kind of been my de facto role up until this point, although truthfully, in the last 3 or 4 months, I've been kind of the main host.
So you're truly reclaiming the co and co-host.
Exactly. Yes. I truly will be the co-host of Financial Issues. I'm so excited for that. I'll be on air with Mark every day, asking him questions, interacting with him, interacting with you all, answering calls. A lot of the same that I did with Shana when Shana was on with more consistency. And of course, I'll also be Mark's backup. You know, if he's not able to host the show a day, if he's out sick on vacation, I'll step in and host just like the old times. But that's going to be my role now. I just wanted to share with all of you as well. I'm so thrilled to tell you this. I don't know if you all know this, but I've been getting my CFP schooling over the last several months with no intention of being a licensed financial practitioner apart from the ministry, but actually entirely to be able to serve each of you more on the show, to be able to gain more of that financial knowledge. Let me say this, that the ministry truly puts its money where its mouth is in investing in its employees. And to be a part of that, to be the recipient of that, folks, just amazing. It really is just amazing. The ministry believes in us, and it's so cool, and they trust in us. So I'll also be working and learning on the back end of things with the strategy analyst team, just growing a little bit more in that. But I wanted to answer you all for that because some of you had been asking, and just to tell you how excited I am to be able to hand things off to Mark to be the main host of the show. Again, Sam and I are not going anywhere. Sam, your role is really not going to change much from what it's been as kind of
whatever that is.
Guy. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I guess he said, he's like, do you want to explain your role on the show? And I said, well, what really is my role on the show? I try to come on and give you some news updates and be as delightful as possible. Hopefully I'm delightful. Maybe I'm just obnoxious, but I think I'm pretty fun. I think you're pretty fun too, Sam. Yeah, Sam's going to be doing much the same thing, coming on-air interaction, our news research guy doing his much of the analyst research work that he does on the BRI side of things. Sam does such a good job. I can't think of a role that Sam hasn't had at the ministry since he started. He was on the news for so long. He's done other stuff, helped out with Outspoken, and now on Financial Issues in a really key role. So just super exciting. Technically the director of Outspoken.
Exactly.
Which was very a strange position to be in, but a lot of fun.
A lot of fun. And if you're new to our audience, folks, that was an old show that we used to have called Outspoken. Just a wonderful time there. But anyway, I really appreciate you all listening and allowing me and Sam the opportunity to share that with you. Just so excited for Mark to come on and really be the true, consistent host of Financial Issues. He's going to be on every day. He's going to be here for you. It's just so exciting. And let me say one more time, God willing for me, I plan to be here at FISM. And again, all in the Lord's plan. But I plan to be here until either I retire as a very old man or I die. So you're stuck with me, basically. So just appreciate you all so much. I believe in this ministry. I love this ministry. And as I said Friday, the best is yet to come for FISM. This is such an exciting time. And so exciting to have you all on this journey with us. Of course, we're coming to the end of our fiscal year, folks. And in the next coming days and weeks, you'll hear us talk a little bit more about that, how we have a real opportunity, an amazing opportunity to finish in the black once again this year, which, considering everything this ministry has been through, it's pretty miraculous. And that's because of all of you. So we'll talk more about that later on. I don't want to put the cart ahead of the horse there. But it is a good day for sure here, folks. Coming up next, we got a couple questions that we're going to get to. Several of you have been asking. Of course, one of them, as I mentioned at the top of the show, about taxation being legalized thievery. We'll talk about that a little more and get to some other of your questions.
Which, if you listen to the show, you already know Seth's answer to that question.
Yeah, right. You'll find out. We'll keep you in the dark for just a moment. You'll just have to wait and see. Quickly here, let's take a look at what the markets did. So on Friday, they finished moderately down, just digesting the week's job numbers. Not too pleased with Friday's numbers. By Friday's closing bell, the Dow Jones was down about 0.5%. S&P 500 was down about 1/3. The NASDAQ was basically flatlined. The pre-markets this morning have ticked a little bit higher. So basically what Wall Street is looking towards this week is we have a couple of inflation numbers. We'll get to those in just a moment. And of course, in just over a week, we have the next Federal Reserve interest rate meeting, which we'll talk about that in a little bit as well. But it seems like the sentiment on Wall Street is everybody is optimistic. They're thinking there probably will be a rate cut. The question now is how large of a cut it will be. We'll get to that a little more later on in the show. Happy to be here with you all. Make sure to say hello if you're watching on the chat or on social media. We'll get to your questions coming up next on the other side of this break. Stick with us.
Navigating through investment options can be challenging, especially when you're determined to uphold your God-given values. Every dollar you invest is a vote for the world that you want to live in. Let your values guide your investment decisions and help to shape the culture in which we live. Become a beacon of light and pave the way with biblically responsible investing. Timothy Plan, where faith and finance collide. Before investing, carefully consider the fund's investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses of the investment company. This and other important information can be found in the fund's prospectus. To obtain a copy, visit timothyplan.com or call 800-846-7526. Read each prospectus carefully before investing. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.
You guys have helped me out the last few years, and it's just been great. I'm beating the S&P 500 by 7% so far this year. I hope more and more people get onto this because not only are we glorifying God in this, but He's glorifying us too.
That's awesome. Thanks for your testimony, Chris, and thanks for encouraging other people.
Go to financialissues.org to get started today.
If a woman sees her baby on ultrasound, it doubles the likelihood that she'll choose life. On top of that, we share the gospel of Jesus Christ with her. This is why you should support preborn.
Then they sat me down. If you were to die today, do you think you would go to heaven? And I was like, no. Keeping the child was my first stepping stone. And ever since then, God has cleaned me up from the inside out.
Help support women in need. Go to preborn.com/FISM.
Welcome back, folks. Financial Issues. So many comments on the chat there. Love to see those loving, humorous, encouraging comments. We'll get to some of those later on in the show. Appreciate that so much, folks. Right now, let's get to some questions, though, that we've got. A couple partner questions we can address here. Sam, let's kick it off with Pete. What's Pete asking this morning?
All right, here is Pete. He says, "Hey, Seth, I don't like taxes either, and I even more
Wait,
so."
Can I just pause there, yeah. Sam? I love how he says, "I don't like taxes either." The common knowledge, of course, is that I hate taxes. I think everybody knows that. Most of you probably hate taxes too, which is great.
I would actually be kind of concerned to meet someone who says,
If
"You
they
know what?
like
I
taxes,
really
yeah.
like taxes." So we might have to get a psych evaluation there. That'd be kind of concerning.
For
But
sure.
yeah,
Sorry
Pete,
about that.
just
Go
like
ahead, Sam.
everyone else, he doesn't really like taxes. He's not a fan. He says he even more so dislikes how the government spends our tax dollars. But he said you, Seth, keep saying without much equivocation that taxes are essentially theft. Not really essentially. You do say that they are theft, right, Seth?
Well, you know, Sam, I have said that at times about certain taxes, certain taxes for sure. So listen, I'll totally admit I've equated taxes to theft quite a lot.
Yeah, well, that's what he's going to go on to say. He says, well, unless you don't think we need federal, state, or municipal governments in this fallen world we live in, how do you suggest funding government even a properly limited one, and the functions, even the legitimate ones that they perform without taxes?
Pete, that's a great question. I appreciate you asking. Let me try to clarify. As I just said there, I could be wrong, but I think maybe you misheard what I have said in the past. To my knowledge, I've never said that all taxes are legalized thievery, but certain taxes, a lot of taxes. If I confuse you there, I do apologize. To my knowledge, I think I've been pretty clear that certain taxation and certain types of taxation would be legalized theft. I agree with you. We need government, and there are limited ways that you can fund the government, taxes being one of them. Certain tax is theft, though. I will stand by that absolutely. And that might be what you remember me saying, if I'm not mistaken. And I've said that ad nauseum, Pete. You're exactly right.
Most of the time, it's in the context of property tax, right?
Exactly. It's property tax, and there's one more, Sam.
Income?
Income tax. Property taxes and income taxes, in my opinion, are two of the most egregious sins committed by our government against its people. Absolutely. Don't get me started on that, because we'll go on a rabbit trail. That's not the point of the question here. Those two types of taxes definitely are, I would say, legalized theft. However, not all tax is. We have to remember, folks, and Pete, I'm sure you understand this as well, that first and foremost, taxes are a part of life that the Bible does not condemn. In fact, I would argue the Bible is at most neutral to tax and admits that taxes are a necessary part of life. Our Lord himself said, "Render unto Caesar that which is Caesar's." Pay taxes. I'm not going to go against his word. Paul reiterates this in Romans 13 as well, that there is a ruling civil authority that's been put there by God, and according to what our Lord said, rendering unto Caesar, that we do need to pay the taxes to that ruling authority. Secondly, I do think that taxes are, in some ways, a necessary way to fund the government in an ordered nation, just like you mentioned, Pete. Now, there are specific uses that taxes need to be used for when it comes to funding the nation. And I think this also gets to your question as well, because when the government misuses tax dollars, that's equally as wrong as legalized thievery. It's almost like legalized thievery. Good uses of taxes consist of a strong military, first and foremost, I think, for defense, and then if necessary, absolutely necessary, for offense, but always for defense. A strong infrastructure, so that'd be roads, bridges, transportation, things like that. And I think, lastly, a morally upright justice system. If my tax dollars are going to those three things, I'm okay with that. That's not legalized thievery to me. That's my government being a good steward of its people and of its tax dollars. In a morally upright justice system, you have a strong police force, you have a strong judicial system, you have impartial judges, fair judges. That goes all the way from local courts all the way up to the Supreme Court. I think that's included in that. If my tax dollars are going to that, all good with that. I'm not anti-tax. What I am against is burdensome tax and unnecessary tax. Those two things would be considered legalized thievery in my book. Absolutely.
You know, beyond income tax and property tax, I think personally what really bothers me, although those two really do, what really reminds me of theft is the percentage increase as you get wealthier. Democrats are always talking about paying your fair share.
Exactly
that really seems to me, out of any of them, to be just theft. Saying we can take more of your money just because you have more of it. That's not fair at all. And that really does seem like thievery.
Exactly. It does seem like thievery. It's a step towards socialism. It's exactly right, Sam. It's well said. And it also punishes success. I mean, who wants to be successful if you're like, oh, great, I get to pay way more than in taxes that I would have.
Well, if you made $100 and the government took, 40% of it, I'm making up a number, we would see that's really egregious. That's taking so much of your labor. But if you make $100 billion or $100 million, that's more realistic, and the government takes 40% of it, we say, whatever.
Yeah.
It's still the same percentage. It's still ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. That's exactly right. And, Pete, I think we see that often. I'm strongly against the burdensome taxes, unnecessary tax, the increasing tax system for the wealthy. And I also think I'm very much against, and I know you are as well, government misusing taxpayer dollars for stupid things. We don't need to pay for Michelle Obama memorial trails when she's still alive, for heaven's sakes. And also for wicked things. I really don't want my tax dollars funding the murder of babies. I really don't want it funding the transing of children. That's bad. This is the type of taxation.
Can we keep the hamster cocaine fights?
Well, that one we have to keep. It's ridiculous, right? It's the silliest things. It's got to be satire. Pete, this is what I'm referring to when I would qualify taxation as legalized thievery against the American people. When the ruling elites levy burdensome taxes, unnecessary taxes on their people, all while maybe pocketing a little bit of it along the way. That's no different to me than if one of my government officials came in and stole 30% of my emergency cash. It's basically the same thing. It's legal thievery. This is why it's so important. This is why we need small, limited, controlled government, not anti-government, not getting rid of the government. I think that's a lot more closer to anarchy. That's not good either. We need limited government, because it will naturally bring with it a tax system that needs to be precise with its reasons, it needs to be purposeful with its uses, and it needs to be not burdensome on the people who pay it. I think that's really important. If we can have those things, I'm totally good with that. If you want more information, folks, on our website, on the statement About Us, if you go to the About Us page, there's a conservative values section. Go read that. And there's a section there, particularly on the need for smaller government. It speaks to this, the need for small government, limited taxes, the model that Ronald Reagan put forth, really. That's what we promote. Not anti-government, but small, limited government that is accountable to the people, that serves the people. That's really what it is. Now, Pete, I will say this. To your specific question, because you asked, unless you don't think we need federal, state, municipal governments in this fallen world, how do you suggest we fund the government, even a limited, properly sized one? There is a way to do this, Pete. And our country used to do this, actually. Apart from taxes, our president is moving in this direction. I don't know if it's his end goal, but he's moving in this direction, and that's tariffs on other nations. Before the 16th Amendment of 1913, this is largely how we were funded. And then in 1913, you had the dawn of income tax, and then everything changed, and the government got massively huge in an appropriate, gross way. We weren't entirely funded on tariffs before this, but it was largely on tariffs. It was a small government taxes, necessary taxes made up the rest. I'd much rather that.
Your main tax system would have been sales tax, right?
Exactly. That's exactly
right.
Which
tariffs also play into sales tax.
Tariffs do play into that. That's exactly right.
Which I'm a major fan of sales tax. It was up to me. Our only tax system would be sales tax, because it's the only tax that's voluntary.
Exactly.
You have to willingly enter a purchase to pay the tax.
That's exactly right. Yep. That seems to be what the best notion is. Sam, we often forget as Americans that our forefathers went to war as a country over a tiny, tiny, minuscule tax. They would be appalled if they saw how much we were taxed today, to know that they gave their lives for us to basically give back so many of the freedoms that they fought for. It was as much that they were fighting against a foreign power as it was they were really fighting against their own tyrannical government. Because really, they consider themselves Englishmen. But they saw their government had overstepped its power, and it was infringing upon their freedoms. That's what we have to fight for, folks. And unfortunately, when you're thinking of how we used to be funded largely on tariffs and on sales tax, and then it became income tax. Unfortunately, Woodrow Wilson, who was one of the worst presidents in our nation's history, is largely to blame for this. Sadly, as he is for the United Nations, but we won't get down that rabbit trail.
And it begins like so many other things begin, where when you introduce the income tax, well, it's going to begin really small, really small rate. It's only going to affect the wealthy people. But as we've talked about on the show, once the government introduces anything, it's never going to go away. And if it starts out only affecting a small group of people, within a couple years, it's going to be affecting everyone, including you.
Exactly. It's really going to grow. So, Pete, I'd be all for this. Here's the deal. It's a pipe dream. As Sam just said, we're probably never going to go back to a tariff-funded system. But it has been done before. And to answer your question, that would be the way that it could be done. Will it happen? Probably not.
What did Ronald Reagan say? He says the closest thing to immortality in this life is a government program.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly right. Yeah, it will probably last until the second coming. Let's just put it that way. Yeah. If our country is still around for the second coming, which it might not be, but it'll probably.
But you can be sure taxes will still be around.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And thankfully, I presume that we won't need taxes in glory. That will be a good day. But as it sits, Pete, I appreciate your question. I hope that clarifies it there. I'm not totally anti-tax. I don't think it's all theft, but I think a lot of it is. And I think especially in our day today, a lot of how government taxes and misuses taxes would be considered legalized theft for sure. It's a good question, Pete. I do appreciate that. Gosh, I don't know if we have time to get to this next one.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. I'm thinking that we might want to save this one for the next segment.
We'll save Wesley's question for the next segment, and we'll get to a little chat rundown here. So many of you sharing some great comments here, encouraging words for us. Dave and Darlene, Sam and Seth are staying. Brian, Sam and Seth have held the show together and have made it an absolute delight to be part of FISM. Well, Brian, you guys have made it a delight for us and just appreciate it so much, man. Thank you. Let's see what else we have here. We've got, Brian from Missouri. Mark lives in your neck of the woods. He sure does, brother. He is hanging out there, man, and it's pretty awesome. Eddie, I know you've been asking about a retreat. God willing, man, I certainly hope that we will be able to have
probably not this year.
Day. Yeah, hopefully in the next couple years for sure. Robert in Texas saying you both did good, done good, and will continue to do good. Robert, appreciate that so much, brother. Thank you so much. Folks, if you have to leave us, hope you have a great rest of the day. For the rest of you, we got more financial issues coming up. We'll get to Wesley's question and some other things that are happening right now. The markets are about to open up, so lots to talk about for sure. More financial issues after this.
Where's Mima? We found out Shepard's diagnosis when I was about 17 weeks pregnant. We learned that he was going to need a series of surgeries after he was born in order to give him what they considered a normal life. And we weren't sure how this worked.
Yeah, very emotional, very, very broken. And as my wife just said, not sure how this worked. And called Samaritan, and they said, you just go have that baby. You leave the rest to us.
And just to hear the confidence on the other end of the phone of this is not something that you need to be concerned about at all. You focus on the health of your family, the health of your baby, and we will walk with you every step of the way.
I started investing close to 30 years ago now. All that time, I had never heard anyone talk about setting up your portfolio in a way that glorifies God. When I first heard about it, I was listening to the radio, a show called Financial Issues. They were teaching people how to honor God with their money. That made a lot of sense to me. I guard my heart, my mind. I watch my mouth, hoping to bring glory to God in everything I do and say. But why wouldn't I want to do the same with my money? I decided I wanted my portfolio to glorify God. I became a partner with Financial Issues, and it's been one of the best decisions I've made. I want to leave a legacy of godliness for those who are following in my footsteps. Invest your money in a God-honoring way. Go to financialissues.org.
My baby was like this big. He was like this tiny little spectrum of hope and this unnamed beauty, in a sense. It was poetic. And I saw his heart beating on the screen. And I mean, I went from, I don't want this baby, it's just a fetus, it's just cells put together, to talking to my child on the screen and feeling really protective and knowing that there's life growing inside. I mean, that sonogram changed my life. I went from just Candace to mom. I'm a mom.
To find out how you can support the life-saving mission of Preborn, go to preborn.com/FISM.
Good to be here with y'all, folks. Markets just opened up. Dow Jones is right below the flat line. Meanwhile, the S&P 500 starts the week slightly positive, about a fifth. And the NASDAQ a little further up, about almost two-thirds, more like 0.5%, between 0.5% and 0.2% positive. So Wall Street, of course, is awaiting the inflation data. We'll get to that in a little bit. It comes later this week. And, of course, keeping an eye on next week as we get another Fed meeting. Let's get to Wesley's question here, Sam. What's Wesley asking about this morning?
Wesley wants to know, what is your opinion, Seth, on IPOs? He says, Seth, your favorite platform, I'm thinking Robinhood is what he's getting at here. Sarcastically, he said, has sent him notifications of 4 IPO releases over the last week. And he said, well, I only use Robinhood for crypto. I have mixed feelings about IPOs. I like the fact that more options for cash to find homes are being offered, but I also am uncertain about the risk of initial public offerings being non-BRI.
Wesley, good question. My favorite Robinhood, I prefer Robinhood, the medieval legendary character, much more than I do the trading platform.
Or the fox from the Disney movie.
The fox from the Disney movie, that's right. But as it sits, Wesley, appreciate the question. As for IPOs, I share your concern about them. My opinion is that they're very risky, and I'd be pretty uncomfortable getting into a company on its IPO. And by the way, for our new audience, if you don't know what that is, an IPO is an initial public offering. It's essentially when a company goes public. It's right around that time. So it starts on Wall Street. It can be very, very volatile. Can be very, very volatile. Kind of similar thinking to, imagine this. If you have a 16-year-old that just got their license and you got a cross-country road trip coming up and you hand him the keys and say, hey, good luck. You're driving from New York to California. It's probably not a good idea to find your newest, brand new, born-again Christian man in your church and say, hey, you want to be our new senior pastor? Probably not a good idea. You want someone who's seasoned. You want someone who is well-trained, necessary time and training. Same idea here. There's something to be said for a maturation period when it comes to these IPOs. The classic example, Sam and I were looking at this before the show, is Newsmax. Sam, give us a taste of what Newsmax did since it's gone public. It's been pretty
We had questions about Newsmax when it first went public because it shot up 700%. Like it might even been more than that, like 900% or something wild. Went from like $83 a share on March 31st up to, what was it? Let's see.
It was almost
$233 the next day.
Yeah.
But then the day after that, it dropped way down to $50, and now it's at almost nothing. It's at $13.
Yeah, between $12 and $13 a share, and it has not gone back up since, Sam. Now, that's not to say it can't go back up again, but the point we're trying to make is there's a lot of volatility there, and it might just not be worth it. So, Wesley, all that to say, I agree with you completely. I'm pretty leery of these as well. We like to see here at the ministry, we want to see trajectories of long-term sustained success in a company, and in the IPO stage, you simply can't get that. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't have it for a stock that's still relatively new, but we want to see signs of long-term trajectory and growth. And the principle of it is, generally speaking, in the IPO stage, it's really hard to find that.
Well, if you're looking at the fear and greed chart, this is definitely on the greed side. It gets people excited, emotions run high. I remember with Newsmax when it first came out, that one day when it was jumping hundreds of percentage points, I was thinking, am I a loser that I didn't buy Newsmax IPO?
Absolutely. Dude, that's exactly right. And you know what's interesting, folks? You got to keep this in mind too. There are some companies, and it happens more often than you think, where they did really well as a private corporation, and then they go public and they can't keep the same success. And sometimes it goes vice versa. Sometimes a company does really well publicly, goes private, and then doesn't keep the same success either. But for our example, it's more that first one. We want to see the company show good signs of life before jumping in. And Wesley, as for the BRI status, if it's a publicly traded company, if it's new, there might not be a lot of information out there on it. So I think that's a pretty wise stance that you're taking also, to maybe wait until there's more information to see if it's BRI or not. But if it is a publicly traded company, you should be able to get that info if you use our evaluator tool. You go to the website, click the resources tab, evaluator, and you can get it there. The buy list is the way to go there for sure. Wesley, it's a good question, and I think your thinking there is right to be a little leery of IPOs. All right, Sam, we hinted at the Fed watchers. Apparently, they are about as certain of a rate cut as we are that the sun's going to rise in the morning. What can you tell us about this?
That's right. It's about a 100% chance, which, if I've done my math right, that's as good as you're going to get for the possibility of a rate cut next week, according to the Fed watchers. The only question now is by how much. Markets, as of this morning, are suggesting there's about a 10% chance that the Fed will implement a half-point rate cut, which is pretty aggressive next week. Well, the other 90%, they predict a quarter-point cut, which is what most people have been thinking for some time. That rising expectation follows Friday's August payroll report, which showed that jobs increased by just 22,000 for the month, far below the forecast of 75,000. And at the same time, the unemployment rate also rose to 4.3%. This comes on the heels also of last week's weaker than expected job opening data for July. Meanwhile, Fed Governor Chris Waller told CNBC last week that rate cuts are necessary to stay ahead of a weakening job market. Here he is.
You want to get ahead of having the labor market go down, because usually when the labor market turns bad, it turns bad fast, non-linear fashion. It doesn't just kind of creep up. So for me, I think we need to start cutting rates at the next meeting, and then we don't have to go in a locked sequence of steps. We can kind of see where things are going, because people are still worried about tariff inflation. I'm not, but everybody else is. So I would say over the next 3 to 6 months, we could see multiple cuts coming in.
Okay. Feeling pretty confident.
Yep, seems that way, Sam. So fun stuff. Confidence from the Fed watchers. Listen, Sam, tell me if I'm just being a little too looking to stir up trouble here, but don't underestimate the shenanigans of the great, mighty, all-powerful Father Jerome Powell. Don't underestimate it. He's going out. He might try to go out with a bang here. Maybe he has a trick or two up his sleeve. No, I don't think so. I think in all seriousness, there will be a rate cut, but probably the milder version. I'm not sure that people are quite as perhaps courageous to go with the 50 basis point cut. Might be a little safer to just go with 25 points. So I think I'd probably go with the 90% majority there, Sam.
Playing it safe.
Yeah, that's
I thought you were going to stir the pot. Say it's the 10%
I would love
chance.
to. I mean, listen, I would love for that to be the case. Do I think it will?
Yeah, no, you're right. Probably not.
Probably not. Yeah. Sam, here's a legal question for you. With everything that's going on with Fed Governor Cook, can she vote in this rate cut ruling since there's technically still a legal case against her? And I know it might go to the Supreme Court.
Well, I think that's the question right now is what are her duties? I've actually not looked. Is she still on the board right now?
I think last I checked, she still is chat. Maybe you can corroborate that for us and see if I believe.
Tell you what, during the ag report, I'm going to take a look into this. Good. I think she's still there, though, right?
What I last heard is that she was completely defying Trump's order, and she's continuing to show up to work. She's continuing to do that stuff while Trump is trying to get her fired. I think that's what's happening. So we can corroborate that and just kind of see there. Yeah, Sam, if you want to check that during the ag report, that'd be great. Good stuff, folks. Before we get to the ag here, a couple quick hitters just for you to know. Mortgage rates are going down a little bit. They hit an 11th month low. That's increasing optimism for buyers. So that's definitely some good news for first-time home buyers, even as the housing market's still pretty hot there. Fox Business is also reporting that Trump cabinet members are targeting Jerome Powell for a weak economy and the August jobs numbers that we got last week. And then just some other news here. Tech CEOs were praising Trump during a White House dinner. So seems like the tech sector seems pretty happy with what the Trump administration has been bringing.
It's really a strange picture seeing Tim Cook, Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, Sundar Pichai of Google all palling up with Donald Trump.
These are the same guys who tried to silence him for 4 years, right? Like they deplatformed him. They forced him to start his own social media platform. It's interesting.
The only guy who really seems like he might be having a change of heart is Mark Zuckerberg, because even before Trump was president, when he was almost assassinated, he came out and said, I got to respect the guy when he got up after that bullet. That was pretty cool.
I saw. Yep. So interesting there for sure. Still seeing the effects of what we saw, that dramatic change we saw in the Oval Office earlier this year. Folks, we got the ag report coming up here, and then we'll talk more about what's going on here in the world. We'll get to some more of your chat comments as well. It's been a good, delightful show, and we're happy to be here with you. Here is Craig Halgard with today's ag update, and then we'll be back for more financial issues.
This is Craig Howgard with your Financial Issues Egg update for September 8th. Well, corn struggled in spite of robust export demand on Friday. The market started stronger, but then faded late in the session as speculative selling entered the market. Now, the selling was driven by a private analyst report that the current corn crop is even bigger than what the USDA is currently projecting. Well, time will tell if that is indeed the case, but on Friday, the fear was enough to drive the market lower. As a result, December corn was $1.75 lower at $4.18 per bushel. Soybeans closed lower as they were pulled down by disappointing weekly export sales and speculative hedge selling. The absence of Chinese buying hangs over this market like Damocles' sword. Friday found the November bean 6 cents lower at $10.27. Wheat struggled in the face of weaker than expected weekly export sales. We also are hearing some reports that wheat is bumping corn out of feed formulas in portions of the West. But with the large corn crop coming on, I suspect that corn is going to force its way back into those feed formulas. Friday found the Minneapolis December wheat 4.25 cents lower at $5.66. Kansas City was down by a penny, closing at $5.05 1/4, and Chicago was 1/4 cent lower at $5.19 1/4. Cotton futures just continue to drift sideways. Friday saw the December futures ending the session as they settled at 66.03. Livestock futures turned in a mixed performance. We had October live cattle 97.5 cents lower at $235.97 per hundredweight. October feeder cattle were $1.05 lower at $357.90 per hundred. We had October lean hog futures $1 higher, $96.02 per hundredweight. Class C milk futures extended their losing streak. At the closing bell, October futures were another 14 points lower as they closed at $16.89. This has been Craig Howgard with your Financial Issues Egg update. We'll be right back with more financial issues after this.
Have you ever wanted to manage your own investments but lack the time to research stocks that are both profitable and biblically responsible? That's where Financial Issues comes in. We're a nonprofit ministry that equips Christians to manage their own portfolios without compromising their values. We handle the details so you can focus on what you do best. This is biblically responsible investing made simple. To start managing your money with confidence and conviction, go to financialissues.org.
In the last 10 to 15 years being in ministry, being married, something that has been constant in our lives is Samaritan Ministries. As we've moved, we've had babies, we've had different things come up, we have just been able to rely on Samaritan in ways that we never really even thought about before becoming members.
Our heart's desire is to plant roots and be in a place for a really long time. It's how we were raised. We see the benefits of that, but we also see the open-handedness of being used by the Lord wherever He calls, because we just assumed when we started pursuing church planting, the quickest way to get from point A to point B is a straight line. And with the Lord, sometimes you find out it looks a lot more like this. And yet, Samaritan was with us through the entire thing.
We didn't have to look into, we have to change insurances now because we've moved states or whatever the case may be. And it's just been a real blessing to us in different phases of life.
I'm Kyle.
I'm Colleen.
And we're the Gen X.
And we're Samaritan members.
If a woman sees her baby on ultrasound, it doubles the likelihood that she'll choose life. And on top of that, we share the gospel of Jesus Christ with her. This is why you should support preborn. The donations that you give actually make a difference. Last year, 59,000 babies were saved because of what you have done with your generosity.
To find out how you can support the life-saving mission of preborn, go to preborn.com/FISM.
The opinions and recommendations expressed on this program do not necessarily represent the opinions of the station or any of the program sponsors. Additionally, all products or services offered by the program sponsors may not be known by the program.
Folks, can't tell you how exciting the time it is here at the ministry, and a perfect time for you if you're not a partner yet to become a partner now as you join us as we rev up Mark being the new host, Mark Minnella, for the show. So excited to have him on. Just once again, folks, you'll be hearing more from Mark. He's going to come on the show with me several times a week, starting this week, all the way through the month of September. And then he'll be kicking it into high gear full-time, starting our new fiscal year in October. Just cannot wait for that. It's going to be so fun. Let me say as well, thank you all so much for the grace and love that you've shown to me and Sam as we've tried to keep things going here for the last couple months. We are thrilled, just absolutely thrilled that Mark is going to be the guy. So pretty awesome stuff. Sam, you were doing some research there. It looks like Lisa Cook is still intending to vote
as far as I can tell in my 3 minutes of research during the break. Yes, she's still on the board of governors, and it looks like she is also going to vote next week.
Yep. Good to know there, Sam. Appreciate that a lot. Let's get a little chat rundown here more. A lot of you commenting. I love your comments here. It's great. Several of you have mentioned that Mark does bear a striking resemblance to our founder, Dan Celia. The difference is he has a full head of hair, which is kind of fun. So we got to get a picture of those guys next to each other and see the resemblance. I know Mark, like Dan, is a proud Italian American, which is pretty cool. Let's see here. Some of you talking about interesting stuff. I see Uncle John mentioning this. Someone else asking about it too. There's been some really disconcerting news concerning the 9/11 report, which, as we come to the 24th anniversary of that horrible attack, I had been following this, and truth be told, folks, I had refrained from saying anything about it just because so much is hearsay. But there's a lot about 9/11 that is very, very concerning. That makes me wonder if people on the inside knew a lot more than maybe we thought they did at the time. So that's all I'm really going to say about it because we just don't know. But I have a feeling we'll get more and more information as that comes out. It's tough, Sam, when you begin to see, maybe there was more to this than meets the eye, So we'll have to see. But did see a couple of those comments there in the chat. I appreciate you guys sharing that as well. Lisa, will Mark do his hair like Shana? Probably not. Shana had an excellent head of hair, which Mark does as well. But, Mark just doesn't have the Shana hair, and he's also a guy. So I think that's kind of how that goes there. Good stuff. Let's get here to what I think, Sam, is a really, really good piece of news. The great state of Texas is continuing its fight to keep abortion out of the state. What can you tell us about this?
Yes, well, as you know, abortion is basically banned in Texas right now. I believe up to, actually, I can't remember if they have the heartbeat bill or if it's completely banned. I can't remember off the top of my head. But right now what they're doing is they're working to close some of the loopholes around the current ban, which allow people to get the abortion pill into the state. Last week, Texas senators voted to pass a bill that was from the state house banning the distribution completely of the abortion pill in the state of Texas. That bill specifically prohibits the manufacturing, distribution, mailing, transportation, delivery, and prescription of abortion-inducing pills for the purpose of obtaining an illegal abortion in the state of Texas. The way this mechanism works is if you're found guilty of doing this, what can happen is private Texas citizens can then bring a lawsuit against you. So folks at Preborn, you and I, whoever, pro-life Americans, if you find someone distributing the abortion pill, you can personally sue them. And that's the way that this process is going to work to keep this enforced. And that bill will take effect in December.
Very interesting. Sam, I want to hear your thoughts on this. Is this government overreach, or is this government doing what it's supposed to do?
I mean, if you have banned abortion in your state and you're closing the loopholes, that's exactly, I mean, the duty of the government is to protect the life of its citizens. So exactly that's like one of the few valid reasons the government exists.
Absolutely. I think that's exactly right, man. I agree with you completely. I don't think this is overreach at all. I think this is exactly what the government is supposed to do. You said it, Sam, protect and uphold the lives of its citizens. And that goes all the way down to citizens inside of the womb, unborn citizens. Just amazing stuff here. Pete, we had answered your question earlier about the purpose of government and tax dollars. I am okay with my tax dollars being used to ban abortion. I think that's awesome, and I want more of that. That's fantastic. Absolutely. God bless Texas. Listen, folks, it's a popular opinion, and I don't think it's entirely true, that people will argue that demonic forces don't really have much influence in America these days. You see it in other countries. You hear about the Muslim world, and you hear about countries in Asia and different things like that, Central America, and you hear these stories of demonic interactions. And then in America, you think, it just doesn't really happen here. That's a lie. That's not true. There are demonic forces running amok in this country. The people who believe this are out of their minds. They've obviously never heard of Planned Parenthood, which is an organization that is entirely controlled by demonic forces. They're zealous in murdering babies inside of the womb and transing them outside. We shared the stat before, but I'll share it again, that the number of babies Planned Parenthood murdered in the fiscal year 2023-2024 equals to an amount larger than most major cities in the country. That includes New Orleans and Cleveland. So more babies murdered than the people who live in the city of New Orleans, in the city of Cleveland. That's an entire generation just completely dismembered. And please don't be surprised as well to know that the largest baby murdering machine in the country also just so happens to be involved in transgender surgeries for children if they make it outside the womb. You're living with your head under a rock if you think that demonic forces are not at work in our country as well. And my goal here, part of one of my life goals, and I'm not just saying this because I'm behind a microphone right now. One of my life goals genuinely is to see Planned Parenthood put to death once and for all. If I can be a small part of that, even just behind this microphone talking about how bad it is, then I think my life will have been worth living. And so that's why we need Preborn, folks. We need ministries like Preborn. Preborn really is Planned Parenthood's worst nightmare. It's their worst nightmare. Preborn does exactly the good stuff that proponents of Planned Parenthood claim it does, providing help for women, providing resources for women. Planned Parenthood doesn't really do all that stuff. Planned Parenthood provides abortion. Preborn actually provides that stuff. They actually provide counseling for women. They provide help for women and families and babies. After the baby is born, they don't just say, okay, we got you out of the womb, good luck. They provide help and counseling for years afterwards.
There's actually a report, Seth, that Planned Parenthood was scaling back even the little bit of those services they did provide, simply saying, this doesn't actually make us too much money.
That's right. There's a lot of money to be made in abortion. Not as much money to be made in providing actual help for
and actually
women.
Helping people, yeah.
But boy, there's a lot of money in abortion, that's for sure. Yep, you're exactly right, Sam. So Preborn's Planned Parenthood's worst nightmare. And we want to be a part of that. I love that. Let's come alongside Preborn. Let's be a part of this destruction of Planned Parenthood and seeing every Planned Parenthood facility in this country being shut down. I would love to see them turned into a church or a Preborn clinic. I think that'd be amazing. But you can donate to Preborn securely today, preborn.com/FISM. We love our friends over there. Dan Steiner and his team doing just such an amazing job. And it's wonderful to see the state of Texas continuing to stand strong for life.
Or as Greg Abbott calls it, Texas.
Texas. That's right. Texas. Exactly. Well, this week, folks, what to look for. We mentioned several of those big inflation numbers. Not much out today. Tuesday, we get the NFIB Optimism Index. Be interested to see that. We also get non-farm payrolls right after the show ends. That's the annual revision for that number. Wednesday and Thursday are the big inflation numbers that the markets will be looking at. So we get PPI on Wednesday, Producer Price Index, and then Thursday we get CPI, that's Consumer Price Index. Again, Wednesday and Thursday, those numbers. The markets will be keeping a sharp eye on those. You can be sure of it. And then Friday, preliminary consumer sentiment breaks as well. So this is kind of the inflation number week before we get to next week, which of course will be the Fed week, as always. And once again, likely, don't quote me on it, you never know, but likely we'll see a rate cut, just depending on how big or small that rate cut will be. One more look here at the markets. The Dow Jones still trending slightly downwards. The S&P 500 is now up 0.25%, and the NASDAQ heading upwards to start the week, nearing a full percentage point. Looking good so far. Oil is hanging right around the $62.50 a barrel mark, slightly below it. Meanwhile, the U.S. 10-year Treasury yield has dipped a little bit. It's down almost right flat at 4%, slightly above 4%, as investors are looking at that inflation data there. Once again, folks on the chat, love seeing all of you there. Dave and Darlene, amen. Planned Parenthood is demonic, and about the same number of Americans died from abortion daily as died on 9/11 at that time, and you are exactly right. It is just a sad, sad thing to see in our country, and I pray that it will be brought to an end. George, hello to you. Great to see you this morning. Judith from Texas. Nice to see you, Jordan. Rich from Ohio. Great to see you. Yeah, Rich, you know what? It is true. Fakebook, like you call it that, is still doing some censoring. One of you in the chat had mentioned, I'll see if I can find that chat here, but one of you did say that it's wise for us still to not trust all of these tech CEOs as they're cozying up nice and tight to Donald Trump. I think that's
for
wise.
Sure. Yeah, I don't want you
that's really wise.
My comment about Mark Zuckerberg should not be taken to say like, oh, we all love Mark Zuckerberg now. It was just a comment about what I've noticed about him personally.
Exactly. But Sam, even, I think what you said, it still stands to be true. They are cozying up to Trump, maybe because it's convenient. Probably what it is. These are not the types of guys who are going to stand strong on a moral issue. They're going to be opportunists. They're going to take advantage of an opportunity. Speaking of an opportunity,
not to do things just for fun.
Exactly. Speaking of opportunities, Rich from Ohio with a great one. The Fed and Republicans, very similar. They rarely miss an opportunity to miss an opportunity. I love that, Rich.
So true, man.
That's right on, man.
I was down at CPAC in 2022 talking to Republicans, and I said, okay, guys, how are we going to screw it up this year?
Yep.
And sure enough, they did.
Absolutely. That's why we can't put our hope, folks, in any political party, even if it's a political party that gets some things right. Our hope is in Jesus Christ and in Jesus Christ alone. Great to be here with y'all, folks. I do hope that you will have a wonderful day and that you'll join us again tomorrow for Financial Issues. We got some exciting things coming up here, folks. Excited to bring Mark Minnella on. He's going to join me later on this week several times on the show. It's going to be a real good time. I hope that you'll join us for those as well. Until then, remember, everything you have belongs to the Lord. Let's be good and faithful stewards with it. God bless you all. See you next time.
If we ever forget that we're one nation under God, then we will be a nation going under.
Thank you for joining us. This has been an FISM production.